next story is about Noah and the great flood. But before we can get to the story and the things that happened to Noah, I want to talk a little bit about Noah himself. And I'm going to read about him, and then I'm going to ask you a question. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. The Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping thing in the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and a perfect in his generations. And Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So the hard words in here are repenteth again, repented. God changed his whole mind about what he was doing. And he was going to destroy the earth instead of make it live on. And the word grieved means sadness, very deep sadness. So he was very deeply sad about what the people were doing. They were so wicked. They couldn't even think a good thought. And then God found Noah to be a wise, just, perfect, and that was why Noah found grace. But I got to thinking, what was it about Noah that God liked? He liked his attitude and his actions. But what made Noah be that way when everybody else in the whole wide world had been evil, thinking people? Where did he get the idea to be good and just and righteous? Well, I started asking that question to people that I know. I asked my son, who's very smart. I said, what made God choose Noah out of all those people? And he says, well, because he listened to God. And I said, yeah, that's a good answer. Then I asked my husband, I says, why did God choose Noah out of all those people? He says, because he was righteous. And I knew that was right. And then I got to thinking, how did Noah learn to be good and righteous? And then I started reading back behind those verses I already read, and I found out about Noah's family. Noah had a father named Lamech. The Bible doesn't say much about him, except that he was Noah's father, and he was Methuselah's son. So Methuselah was Noah's grandfather. Well, Methuselah had lived with the longest of anyone in the Bible. He lived 969 years. That's a lot of years. But remember, when I was talking about the Garden of Eden, the world was very clean. The air was clean. And there was no disease or bad stuff around that would cause people to die at a young age. So they lived a very long time. And there'll be one more reason I'll tell you when we get to the flood story. And before Methuselah, there was Enoch. And the Bible does say something about Enoch. It says, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. God took Enoch, and he didn't have to die. In other words, Enoch was the kind of person that God wanted to be friends with. Well, if you have a family that's so good like that, you learn what is good. And that's what Noah did. He learned how to listen to God. He learned how to be righteous and just because he listened to his elders. He listened to his father. He listened to his grandfather. And he probably heard stories about his great-grandfather. And those are the kind of things that make a family good for us and helpful. And the things around us that are good should help us become better people and make better choices. Did you know children can make choices? Have you even thought about this? But when you are told that you have to do something, you have a choice. Oh, yes, you have to do that. If mom and dad or your grown-up tells you to go clean your room or feed the dog or some chore that you don't particularly like, you get to make a choice. Not if you do it or not, because you have to mind your parents or your grown-up. But what you get to choose is whether you go in to clean your room with a grumpy face and just frown facey, or do you get to go in and say, okay, I know how to do this, I can do this, and I'll get it done. And mommy or daddy or grandma or grandpa will be happy that I got it done in the time I'm supposed to get it done. So you do have a choice. And Noah had the same choice. He could choose to be like all the people in the whole world that were so mean and evil all the time, or he could be like what he had been taught, a just and righteous man. And because he did that, made the right choice, he also was the one that God chose. And he listened to God. So here's a song that might help you remember the story today. It's called Be Careful Little Feet Where You Go. Be careful little feet where you go. For there's a Father up above and he's looking down in love. So be careful little feet where you go. Be careful little hands what you do. Be careful little hands what you do. For there's Father up above and he's looking down in love. So be careful little hands what you do. Be careful little ears what you hear. Be careful little ears what you hear. For there's a Father up above and he's looking down in love. So be careful little ears what you hear. Be careful little eyes what you see. Be careful little eyes what you see. For there's a Father up above and he's looking down in love. So be careful little eyes what you see. Be careful little mouth what you say. Be careful little mouth what you say. There's a Father up above and he's looking down in love. So be careful little mouth what you say.